Everyone, my name is Heather Turner and I am the District 53 Social Media Chair, and tonight we'll be talking about a social media overview for Toastmasters. This session is being recorded, so if you have questions about anything or if you have fellow Toastmaster members and members of your club that might be interested in this session, please feel free to send the link on. We will have it up online on the District 53 website tomorrow, and we would love it if you would pass it on. So we're still waiting for 2 more people, so I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes and just go over some of the things about what you can do with this webinar. You can ask me questions. Everyone is now currently on mute. I can't talk tonight. I guess it's been a long day already. And so if you have questions, I would appreciate if you would ask them as they occur to you, and what we'll do at the end of the session is we will go over any questions that you have, and if you just go to the right-hand side and you'll see ask a question, so just type it into the box, and at the end I will read them off and answer any questions that you might have. So right now, District 53 is on Twitter, they're on Google+, they're on Facebook, and we also have a blog. And I think we're probably just going to start into having a Pinterest account soon for the district. So if you have not liked any of those pages or you haven't connected with any of those pages, we would love it if you would go online and do so, and we would be happy to like and follow your clubs back. Okay, so I'm going to get started. So tonight we're going to be talking about pretty much all of the social media channels out there. And I'm going to go over very briefly, these are sort of the commonly used social media platforms. And as you can see, Facebook is still at the top at 94%. Twitter is at 83%, LinkedIn, YouTube, blogging, Google+, Pinterest, Instagram, and then they have some of the smaller sites underneath here. For those that may not be aware, socialmediaexaminer.com is a fantastic website to go on and find very updated information about social media. They come out with this social media report once a year, and they always talk about the latest platforms that are going on. They talk about, what's up and coming, and it's been interesting tracking this particular graph over the years, because Pinterest, for example, and Instagram, if you go back a couple of years, they weren't even on the radar. And some of the other ones have switched places a bit. Google+ has been climbing. Blogging has actually dropped a little bit, but is actually one of the #1 platforms for people to jump on, and it's very, very good for search engine optimization. And we just had 2 new people join us, and so for the new people that just came on board, this is only the first slide, so you haven't missed anything. If you have questions, please ask them in the question box. They'll be to the right of your screen, and I will address them at the end. So Facebook and Toastmasters kind of go hand in hand. Facebook is a very difficult platform for people to use for businesses and clubs and organizations, unfortunately, nowadays, because Facebook has an algorithm. So it means that if a club creates a Facebook page and they have 150 people liking the page, when the club posts an update, right now, only between 1% and 3% of the people that have actually liked the page are actually going to see the posts. Facebook filters a lot of the posts, and so people aren't going to see everything that you post. There are some ways to get around that, and there's some strategies, but it takes a little bit of work. Some of the reasons to use Facebook are for search engine optimization. Facebook and Google don't really get along though, so Google can see that a club has a Facebook page, but they can't see necessarily the content in it. But it is a good idea for a club to set up a Facebook account, because then they can post content on it. Google will pick that up, Bing will pick that up, and it's great for retention and everything else. And it's a great place to put member news in. And my apologies, we just had someone come in the house if you heard the dogs barking in the back. So there's 3 types of things that you should be aware of if you have a page or you're setting up a page for your club. There's fan pages, also known as business pages, and that's what a club would be using to advertise their club. There's also groups. I've seen clubs set up groups. District 53 has a group. Groups don't necessarily, especially if it's just for the club, get a lot of activity unless all of the members are on Facebook and they're on Facebook all of the time. And there's also personal accounts. And there's a big difference between all of them. And a lot of people, if they're signing up for Facebook for the first time for their club, they get a little bit confused because Facebook is not clear about the fact that if you're advertising business, a club, an organization, you really should have a business page or a fan page, as they used to be called. It's against Facebook's terms of service to actually use personal pages for advertising. And realistically, even if they didn't, there's some other cons to that as well. Personal pages and business/club pages do look extremely similar, and I think this is where a lot of people get confused. The best way to tell is this is an actual club page/business page, and you can see that people like it, that you can either like it or you already have liked it. This is a group. The thing about groups is even though it says public group, if people are not logged in to Facebook, they can't see the content in it. So if you're using a group to advertise your club, it might be great for other people within Facebook. You can share things, you can share topics, you can have your club members participating in it, but it's not going to do your club any favors because no one else can see the content unless they're actually logged in. There are different types of groups on Facebook. You can have a public group, which means that people that aren't even in the group can see the content. You can have closed groups, and there's some other options in there as well. And so this is a Toastmasters club set up as a personal account. And as you can see, friends, and also add a friend. Now, this is the definite con to setting up a Toastmasters account as a personal page. Nobody can actually see the content unless they're logged into Facebook. Google cannot actually pick that information up either. So from the perspective of advertising your club, it's actually quite useless for that because no one can see whatever you post, so it's not helping your club any. So some of the good things about Facebook is you can have multiple administrators for it. So you can have different levels of administration. So a main administrator means that they have access to everything within Facebook, but you can also have content creators. So say you had several club officers as administrators, and they can do anything within the page, but you also had a couple of club members that wanted to participate. So you could have them set as content contributors, but they can't access anything else within that. Now, Toastmasters blogs are something that I highly recommend. Very, very good for search engine optimization. If you post something on a blog, it doesn't matter if it's years and years ago, it will actually help your club get found online. Google and Bing and Yahoo and some of the, including a lot of the smaller search engines, love blogs. They love blog content. Just to give you an example of how much they love blog content, if you update a website with content, it generally takes 48 or more hours for search engines to come along and actually look at the content and aggregate it into their search algorithms. When you post content on a blog, it actually gets aggregated almost instantaneously. I know that Toastmasters clubs and businesses that have started blogs years and years and years ago still get found online many years later because of search terms that people are searching for. I have my own blog, for example, that I started in 2009, and people still find me from articles that I wrote 4 years ago. So it's great for that. You can put, it's great for content sourcing. There's some really terrific public speaking blogs out there that you can get information on, you can refer to. I would recommend don't copy content from another blog unless you have permission, because that does go into copyright infringement, but you can reference them. So if you were writing a blog post, for example, about the best ways to use facial expressions in a speech, and you came across this other terrific blog that was talking about this, you can actually refer to that and take a couple of sentences out of it and say, hey, I came across this great blog on this. This is why it's wonderful. Go check it out. And so it's great for member news too. Cromwell, whom I'm a member of, we post our meeting minutes on our blog, for example. And it's great because it's good for the fact that people can actually see what's going on. And it's also very, very useful as well for our Vice President of Education, because then they can actually go back onto the blog and actually see, okay, so-and-so did a speech, so-and-so, did a timer, for example, and make sure everybody gets credit for everything like that. So there's a bunch of different options if your club is going to use a blog. So blogger.com, Blogger is owned by Google, and Google loves its own products. If you're not feeling particularly technically savvy, I would recommend starting out on Blogger. It's very, very easy to use. If you're comfortable using just regular Microsoft Word, Blogger is a great fit. WordPress.com is another option. It has a few more bells and whistles. The back end of it is a bit more complicated. There's also Tumblr. Tumblr is primarily used as a photo blog. So if you're going to use your blog and take a lot of pictures of your club, for example, Tumblr might be a good fit for that. And there's also WordPress.org. And I bring that up because WordPress.org and WordPress.com are basically the same platform. But WordPress.org requires installation of software. It requires money for hosting and also a domain name. So that's something that I wouldn't necessarily recommend because that's going to cost money. WordPress.com is a much better option for that. So this is an example of a Blogger blog, for example, and you can customize it very much in terms of, this is actually from our old website before they switched over to Free Toast Host 2, but this is the header that we actually had in there. So you can customize Blogger and WordPress and Tumblr to look very, very similar to the current websites that you have, and you can customize them in current colors. This is a WordPress blog, for example. And blogs are great because I said they can be around forever. The content gets picked up forever. And again, similar to Facebook, you can also have multiple administrators and multiple contributors to it. Now, Toastmasters and YouTube, I think, is fantastic. If a Toastmasters club isn't going to do any other social media, I would actually recommend that they start a YouTube account. The reason being is people search in YouTube just like they search in Google, so that especially if you want to attract the younger generation, because they search for things. I'm afraid of public speaking, so they go to YouTube instead of going to Google and say, I'm looking for help with public speaking. And if you have those keywords in YouTube videos, then you'll actually help your club get found. Very, very good for search engine optimization. If you're looking for content to post on other social media, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of public speaking videos, of Toastmasters specific videos that you can use as content to bring into your other social media channels. And it's a great way to, publicize your club. Think about the fact that you could tape a speech. You could also tape the speech and then tape their evaluation. And YouTube has a great YouTube editor, so you could actually take those two pieces of content that you've taped on a smartphone and stitch them together into one video. You could tape a really, really great meeting that you had, and then when you had someone that was interested in perhaps coming to club to the visit but wanted to know a little bit more about how your club ran or how Toastmasters meetings went, you could email them the link to the YouTube video, and then they can actually see, this is how we go. Tape other things that you're having. If you're having an open house, take your smartphone and run a couple of minutes of clips off. There's so much that you can do with YouTube and so much you can use it to promote your club with. The other option that YouTube has is you can also make a slideshow out of stills. So if you had an area contest, for example, or a club contest, you could do, after the contest was over, when people were getting their awards, you could be taking photos of all of the award winners and then make them into this really pretty and really nice slideshow on YouTube. You can add music to it that's royalty-free, that Google provides, because YouTube is also owned by Google. So YouTube gives you this royalty-free music that you can add in. Now, YouTube's neat because if you do videos, you can also embed them into your websites and into your blogs. So right now, if you're using FreeToast Host 2 site, you would need to go into the HTML editing capacity to edit that, or you could just link to any videos that you have. Now, this is an example of Toastmasters International. They have their own YouTube channel. And as you can see, they have a custom header. You can add a logo here. And then these are all videos. And YouTube has the added advantage of they don't have to be your own videos to have a channel. You can also, it's kind of like bookmarking other videos. So you're highlighting other speaking videos or other Toastmasters videos and bringing them into your YouTube channel. Now, Toastmasters Twitter. I personally love Twitter. Twitter is one of the hardest social media platforms to use and understand, but it can also be the most useful. Terrific for search engine optimization. It's great for connecting with other clubs all over the world. There's thousands and thousands of Toastmaster clubs on Twitter. And it's a great place for content sourcing. Twitter has the ability to build lists. So if you're looking for content for any other social media platforms that you're on, you can create a list on Twitter that's aggregating all that information, and you can just use that for content sourcing. Even if you're not going to actively use Twitter to promote your club, you can still use it to find content. The other thing that helps is if you do set up a Facebook club page, set up a Twitter account alongside that, and you can actually set up an automatic feed so anything that you post into Facebook automatically feeds into Twitter, and it will help search engine optimization, and it will help basically get found a bit better. The neat thing that I find about Twitter is you can do hyper-local people sourcing. So if you start a Twitter account, for example, you can go into there's an advanced search into it, and you can find everybody geographically tweeting within 15 miles or 30 miles. Or you can find people more specific. I'm looking for people that live within 15 miles of Hartford, and maybe some of them are looking for public speaking help, because you can actually get that detailed in search in it. Now, this is what a Twitter account looks like. And as you can see, there's a very big header. They just changed the format this past year, and it's a lot more user-friendly, and it's a lot more visual than it used to be. Twitter doesn't have any terms in terms of if you wanted to put more information in here, you wanted to put a picture in here, and then you wanted to put on top of this, we meet Thursdays at 7 p.m. at such a place. Twitter doesn't have any terms of service prohibiting you to do that, so take advantage of that. There's some photo editors that are free online if people don't have Photoshop or they don't have a photo editor on their computer. Then I would be happy to share if anyone needs that. And then you can take a custom photo, you can crop it, you can add text on top of it, and then you can upload it to any of the social media channels. There's a great tool out there called Canva. If you just Google it, it's canva.com, and they actually give you custom header sizes, so you can upload content or you can use the content that they're providing and then customize it and make beautiful headers for Facebook, for Google+, for Twitter, for pretty much any other social media channel that you're looking for. Now in here, there's a bio. It'll also give you a location, and then it'll give you a link directly to the website. And so you can also go into Twitter and just search for Toastmasters, and it'll give you a bunch of different options. Live means people talking about Toastmasters. Accounts mean actual Toastmasters accounts. And then there's photos and videos, and there's more options. If you're going to explore Twitter and you need some more help with this, we will be having another class in a few months specifically geared towards Toastmasters on Twitter. If you don't want to wait until then, email me and I'd be happy to walk you through it. Now, LinkedIn for Toastmasters is not necessarily going to be terrific for your club, but it is a great place for content sourcing. It's great for connecting with other Toastmasters all over the place, and it's really terrific for information gathering and getting answers to things. Toastmasters has several different forums on LinkedIn, and if you have an issue with a club, you run into a question about something, the best place to go for it, if you don't feel like calling Toastmasters International, or you just want feedback from other clubs, say you had an issue with someone that always came in late, for example, and was disrupting the club. That's a great place to ask that in the forums, and you'll get, within seconds, literally, you'll get experienced Toastmasters from all over the world answering the question. I know a few years ago we had an issue with a guest that was coming consistently that had really, really strong perfume, and wonderful lady was going to be a great Toastmaster if she decided to stay with it and was interested in it, but it was really affecting a bunch of people in the club because they were very sensitive to this overwhelming odor, basically. So we posted a question in it, and we got such great ideas and feedback from other clubs and other people from other clubs all over the place. Literally, we got, I think someone from Sri Lanka actually came up with the perfect solution to this. And I don't remember what it was, but it worked very, very well. And we had a conversation with the lady. And unfortunately, she didn't decide to join in the long run, but it was handled in a good way. And we wouldn't have thought of the way to handle it without getting feedback from this. So this is a great resource to go to. So I'd highly recommend, if you have a LinkedIn account, go to these two. There's two different main ones. One is a little bit more about publicizing Toastmasters to the public, and the other one is specifically just Toastmasters members. So Toastmasters on Google+. Google+ is owned by Google. Anything you post in it is very, very good for search engine optimization. When Google+ first rolled out a couple of years ago, it was not very well used, or there weren't a lot of clubs on there as of yet. Last year, when I looked and counted how many clubs were on Google+, there was about 500 or 600. Now there's about 6,000. So it's definitely growing as a medium for content. Now this is what a Google+ page looks like, and you can follow it. It is similar to liking something on Facebook or following someone on Twitter, in that when you follow someone, you're actually going to sort of subscribe to their posts. So again, anything that you post in Google+ is going to be very, very good for search engine optimization, but you're probably not going to get a lot of engagement on it. Now you can also do a search too. You can just go into Google+ and search for Toastmasters, and it will bring up clubs all over the world. Again, District 53 has an account on Google+, so if you join Google+ for your club, please follow us and we will follow you back. Now, Google+ has a really neat feature in addition to this called Hangouts. And there's two different versions of Hangouts. There's Google Hangouts and there's Google Hangouts on Air. Google Hangouts, I like to call it Skype on steroids, because Skype, you can have a video chat one-on-one. In Google Hangouts, you can have a video chat with up to 9 other people, so 10 in total, all at the same time. There's been a lot of talk, and this is something that we're going to try to do soon, is to try to have some virtual meetings. They might not necessarily count as real meetings according to Toastmasters International, but in the direction that technology is going, it's a good thing for people to be able to find out how to use this, make it easier for themselves to use, and be a little bit more technologically savvy. It does have some great perspectives in that if you had, for example, a Toastmasters meeting and you had a couple of people that were perhaps not able to make the meeting for traffic or their kids were home, technically they can go on Google+ and join the Hangout and then, associate with your club meeting and participate in it. They could give a speech, they could give an evaluation, they could be the counter or the grammarian, for example, and still participate in the meeting. A couple of years ago, we had Marilyn Jess actually logged in and did a remote speech from, I think she was up in Vermont at the time, and it was really neat because we put her up on the big screen. We stuck speakers into my laptop, and it was really neat because she gave her speech remotely and we gave her feedback on it. And this was really before Google Hangouts rolled out, but this is such an incredible extra option that clubs could take advantage of. There is a club in Australia that all of their meetings are virtual. So if you go to Google and you type in virtual Toastmasters, you'll find their club name. The other option for Hangouts is something called Hangouts on Air. And Google Hangouts on Air is you actually get taped. So you could have an interview with someone, you could have a virtual speech with a virtual evaluator, and it would tape it, and then that taped version would get sent automatically into a YouTube channel. So if you set up a YouTube channel for your club and you started experimenting with Hangouts on Air, you could send that in, and you can further use that to publicize your club. One of the other differences between a regular Hangout and a Hangout on Air is you can publicize it to the world. So you can put on the fact that, hey, we're having a virtual Toastmasters meeting, and people wouldn't necessarily be able to participate, but they'd actually be able to view it. So you could theoretically have thousands and thousands of people all over the world watching your virtual Toastmasters meeting. It has a lot of other applications as well. You could do screen sharing, you can do a PowerPoint within it. So I would recommend, if you start a Google Plus account, log into Hangouts and just start playing around with it. The connection seems to be a lot more reliable than Skype, and the imaging is a lot better. I've very rarely gotten bumped off a Hangout, and as I said, the resolution is generally a bit better. Now, Pinterest is one that I'm starting to find more and more Toastmasters using. When Pinterest first rolled out, it actually came out in 2009, and nobody really knew about it. It only really started to pop for marketing about 3.5 years ago. And for those that aren't familiar with Pinterest, Pinterest is kind of like an online pin board. So think of that old-fashioned cork board in the post office, or in the local market where you could stick things up. Pinterest is kind of like that, but it's online. Anything that's visual can be pinned. So photographs, images, if you had a club document, you could scan it in and post it. If you had a visitor come to your Toastmasters club and write a comment in your guest book that said, I really love this meeting, I can't wait to come back, you could take a picture of that on your smartphone and upload it to Pinterest because it's advertising. Very, very good for search engine optimization. I'm still not quite sure how Toastmasters can use it to promote their clubs aside from the search engine optimization aspect of it. Last year, when I did a search for Toastmasters on Pinterest, there was only 2. When I did a search last week, there was quite a few on there. And the content that they're posting is definitely interesting. As you can see, a lot of these are individual clubs. There's only a couple of districts on here so far, but I'm monitoring Pinterest because this is kind of interesting that they're actually going into that new medium. Now, see, here's an example of their actual board. So, they're looking for, leadership, personal growth, teamwork, and you can do any kind of topics on Pinterest. So if you started pinning, public speaking quotes and leadership quotes, you can add all this information, and you can add this content that you're putting into Pinterest into some of your other social media marketing mediums. If you have a Facebook club page, for example, there's a terrific application called WooBox. It's WOOBOX. And it integrates into your Facebook page for free. And so if you have a YouTube account or a Pinterest account, it will actually pull the information and those channels into your Facebook page as a tab. So you can use that to sort of cross-promote each other, which is kind of neat. Now, Toastmasters on Instagram. This is another one similar to Pinterest that a year ago, I only found one Toastmasters club in the whole world using Instagram. Now there's quite a few. The question is, are they getting members from it? I don't know yet, just because from a Toastmasters perspective and marketing, it's such a new medium for people. I do know that Instagram is very, very heavily used by millennials. So if you're looking to attract younger people to your club, this is a terrific medium in which to do so. And if you are starting to use it for your club and you are getting a good return on some time, actually, please let me know, because I'd like to have that information. This is one of those social media channels that I'm still investigating. There are some pros and cons to Instagram. One of the cons is you need to upload content on a smartphone. So it means that if someone's taking pictures at your club level with a phone, they can't bring it home to the computer. They actually have to upload it on the phone itself. That can be a little difficult. Some people are a little, leery about trying to do that and connecting it. That account, if someone starts an Instagram account, that can be switched over to someone else. So it's not the end of the world. And if someone does have their own Instagram account, you actually can have multiple Instagram accounts on one cell phone. That's actually was a recent question that I had from another Toastmasters club a couple of weeks ago. If you don't want to use specifically your phone, or you want to have other people contribute to an Instagram account, there's something called Websta, and this is kind of the online version of Instagram, and you can do a lot of things in the online version. You can follow people, you can like things, you can comment on things, but the only thing you can't do is post pictures on it. And so this is a search from a couple of days ago for Toastmasters. And so these are all of the clubs that now have content. And there are people that are not necessarily Toastmasters clubs, but are talking about Toastmasters content and talking about public speaking on there. So I think if Instagram stays around, I would say by the end of the year, it might be something, if that's your target demographic, if you want to attract the younger generation to the club, I would say, start dabbling it in a little bit. I wouldn't spend a lot of time in it. Now, that's pretty much the overview of all of the social media channels out there. There are some other things like Snapchat, there's podcasting. I have never heard of, and I probably won't because I don't think Snapchat's going to stay around, any Toastmasters clubs using Snapchat to advertise themselves. Podcasting is also something. I do know a couple of Toastmasters clubs in California are doing podcasts, and it's basically a tape of people speaking. There are some downsides to that because people are not seeing the visual aspect of it. But if you have a great speech and you want to investigate that, that's great. It's not that terrific for search engine optimization, so you could have someone get taped on a podcast, send people the link if they're interested, but again, they're missing that whole visual aspect of it. Now, most of these channels, as I mentioned in the beginning, can have multiple administrators. Google Plus can also have multiple administrators. If you start a Google Plus channel for your club, whoever started it becomes the owner. And then ownership can be transferred, and you can have other administrators, but it takes about 2 weeks. What I would recommend, if you start setting up social media channels for your club and for your club members, because new officers transition in and out every year, and some things get lost. I've run into this a lot, not just with social media, but with club websites. People lose access to accounts. So what I would recommend is for a Toastmasters club to start a Gmail account. And a lot of these things like Blogger, like Google+, like YouTube, are actually tied in to Gmail, which is Google, in the first place. And then, start those accounts, start a Twitter account with your Gmail account, start ownership of your Google+ page with that Gmail account. So then when you change officers, the only access that they're really going to need is that Gmail. And then if you get locked out of an account, you can reset it in one central place. I'd recommend having 3 or 4 officers at a time have access to that, and have 2 people that are in charge of primarily checking that and monitoring it. Now, I'm going to open it up to some questions. So if you have questions, please type them into the box on the right-hand side, and I will do my best to answer them. Okay, so I have a question about our club set up a Facebook page, and nobody seems to know who has access to it. I've run into that a few times myself as well. You can go into a Facebook page, and on the header, you can go into, there's a report tab. So if you don't have access to it anymore, for example, people may have moved away, you don't have contact with them anymore, you can't ask for administrative access, you can ask Facebook to take it down. There are many cases where you can't get access to it. Facebook is not responsive. And just so you know, if you have a problem on Facebook, Facebook doesn't have a help desk. They don't really have support tickets. You can send them issues, you can go into the help section, and after many clicks and many pages that you have to go through, you can send them a message. If it's super important and you really want Facebook to sit up and take notice, you really have to repeat the issue that you have an issue with many times. I found if you have the time and the patience to submit the same information at least 15 times, Facebook will generally respond to it just because you're being enough of a pest. If you submit an issue once, you will never get a response back from them. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, great. This is regarding Google+. So there are in Google+, and actually I didn't go into this because it actually doesn't really matter, you can set up a Google+ page as a personal account or as technically a business or association account. Google doesn't seem to care which you set it up as. If you set it up as a personal account, you're going to have a name. So Mike, for example, would be his name, and then he would set up a Toastmasters club page, and then you would have administrators to it. If you set up your personal account as the club page, Google's still going to see the content the same way, so is everybody else, and you're still going to administrate it and post content to it and edit everything else in it exactly the same way. Okay, the audio is breaking up. Are there any clubs using Meerkat or Periscope? I have not seen any yet. I've been investigating that as well from a club perspective, because both of those are integrating primarily into Twitter. And for those not familiar with Meerkat or Periscope, they're kind of like mini videos. It's very similar to Vine, but it's more of a social media distribution network. They're both so new in terms of just business marketing that I really don't have that much information on them yet, but they are on my radar. And as I find out more information, I will keep everybody posted. Let's see. Okay, if we start a Twitter account and people follow us, do we have to follow them back? No. Twitter is like a big chat room. It's very casual. If someone follows you and they have absolutely no relevance to who you are, what you're doing, what your club is doing primarily, you don't have to follow them back. You can ignore them. They can talk to you. You can talk to them. But there's no rule of thumb that says, I have to follow anybody back that follows you. Yep. Okay, so if you have a Twitter account, one of the biggest things that I find from a business perspective and from a club perspective that they kind of err in, especially when they're first starting out, is following a whole bunch of people at the same time and not having that many people follow them. If you start a Twitter account, follow cautiously. There's kind of a method to the madness that I'll go into more when we do specifically the webinar on this. But if you go out and you follow 800 people and you only have 5 people following you, the first thing that people are going to see when they come to your account and think, especially experienced Twitter users, is, okay, they're going to spam me, which in Toastmasters' case isn't necessarily going to be true, but people might be afraid they're going to get jumped on like, join our club, or they're a newbie. Which is a case of many new people. It just doesn't look good. On some of the other channels, it doesn't matter. Google+, for example, if you're following more people than follow you, it's not necessarily detrimental. You can actually, on Google+, you can actually hide the amount of people that you're following. So you can only show the amount of people that are following you. On Pinterest, if you have more people that you're following that are following you, that's actually looked on as a good thing. Okay, does anyone have any more questions? Okay, if anyone has any questions that they think of after the fact, or something that maybe came up later on in their club that they didn't think of, or their club has a social media account that they need help with, please let me know. I'll be posting my email address online with a copy of the video when we upload it. So I'm here to help. So if anyone needs help with anything, or they need help setting a social media platform up, they want to set up a Facebook account or a Twitter account and need help with it, please feel free to email me or call me. I'm more than happy to help a club walk through that. So thank you for your time, everyone, and I hope you have a great evening. So thank you.